Welcome. Well, what's going on here? Why? What's happening? How y'all doing? Oh, okay. I didn't know. I thought they on some they on some crazy stuff when it comes to Twitter. They decided that you got to have a premium account to stream on Twitter, so they're not letting you stream on Twitter anymore. Oh, too bad. Oh well, I ain't doing it. This is gonna be crazy. This is gonna be crazy. This now, I'm gonna be honest. This this thing was happening anyway. Okay, this is not happening just because Donald Trump got shot in the ear. This is not why this is happening. This was going to happen anyway. And what triggered this was actually Ben Shapiro. For the first time in forever, I watched an entire C-SPAN, the Senate, was it Senate or the House subcommittee or whatever, blah blah blah. All right, 3 hours. I was at work listening to that whole thing of Ben Shapiro up there with all the advertisers, Unilever and all those guys. And I said, this is what we should be paying attention to. That's the kind of stuff we should be paying attention to. Not who the politicians are, because they don't matter. What needs to be, we need to focus on is the unelected officials and what and the unelected institutions that are making decisions without our permission about us and what we see and what we experience. That's what we need to be paying attention to. So this was happening anyway. And I ended up listening to that entire thing and I kept hearing Project 2025, Project 2025. I was like, what is that? You know, people are trying to use it to scare people. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I then tweeted out, I Googled Project 2025, went to the Wikipedia account, and instead of quoting the actual document, it was just a bunch of left wing reporters saying a bunch of nonsense about what's in the document. So I had to go and read the document. And then I figured out it was 900 pages. I say, oh Lord, I am in no way going to read that 900-page document. You got about 40. I skimmed through it to see if some of the things that people were scared of was in there. Newsflash, they're not. So this was going to happen anyway. Um, and then they shot Trump. Then they decided to shoot him. So we got to talk about that first. Trump was speaking in Pennsylvania, where about somebody say 8 shots, somebody said 6 went out. He got hit in the ear before he ducked. There were some other people in the crowd that were hit. There was blood all over the bleachers. And that to me is the part that is the most horrifying. They were trying to kill Donald Trump and ended up killing somebody else. I hope that people now have learned that you cannot just go around calling people names, making threats, and not think that these things have real world consequences. The shooter is dead. We don't know what happens to the shooter. I'm probably on the side of the shooter killed himself, uh, which typically kind of happens in these situations. He got off as many rounds as he could, but before Secret Service got there, he probably popped himself. That's going to be my guess. He didn't want to go to jail. He didn't want to be taken alive. So likely he fired off as many rounds as he could, And then once Trump was no longer in sight, he took his own life. That's my guess. Beyond that, we don't know. Trump got grazed in the ear. Um, a lot of people are now saying it's a hoax. Some people are saying it's a work. It's fake. He went down and cut his own ear. I don't know if those are jokes or whether that stuff's serious. But ultimately, we're entering a realm of American politics not seen in many, many years. But when you routinely depict other people as tyrants, dictators, authoritarians, or whatever, you scare people enough, they will do whatever, you know? Or if they feel like there's some kind of moral justification, which is usually where it is it's going to be this righteous moral justification. This person was misguided. They'll tell you he's a lone wolf, not a member of any groups, because they would hate. That's like they told you Antifa wasn't real. They'll tell you this guy was never a part of any groups. He's radicalized online or something silly like that. And this will all be under the rug in 2 weeks. Yes, a lot of people are saying, well, Trump just won the election. Well, there's some truth to that, but I think he was going to win anyway. Joe Biden is pretty much brain dead. And I know that voting for Joe Biden is what some people are choosing to do. I don't really participate in politics. I have opinions, of course. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. I can just tell you that a vote for Biden is a vote for the administrative state because he is not functional. And I pretty much know everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. He probably got a good 2 or 3 hours of lucidity a day. If you get him at the right time, he could probably be a pretty good speaker. Other than that, slurred words, just a lot of issues. And I would feel bad if Joe Biden was my grandfather, because it's all weekend at Bernie's around there. They're dragging him to and from town to town to talk and not really say much of anything. There's no policies that he can propose to do in the next election cycle that people are just not looking at him right now and say, just do it right now. You want to do student loan forgiveness or health care reform or whatever, just do it now. Why wait? Just do it now. And there's a lot of people who are looking at Joe Biden and saying, man, you got to be a vote blue no matter who to vote for Joe Biden. That's just how it is. But I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm just saying, you know what you're doing when you vote for him. You're not voting for Joe Biden. You're voting against Trump, and you're voting for the administrative state. So as we go through Project 2025, Agenda 47, Agenda 2030, any other things I stumble across, we're going to go through GARM, talk a little bit about what Ben Shapiro was talking about. We're going to go through that too, as we basically just get warmed up here. How's everybody doing? So let's get started, I guess. So I'm really hoping that the other individuals who were shot during the Trump assassination attempt is okay. I hope they lived. I hope the only person that died was the shooter. Um, Now, low key is asking a question that that passed through my mind is whether somebody will try again. I think there's enough positive reactions from what happened today that would lead somebody to believe that they should just try again. There are so many people saying, oh, we were 1 inch away from not having to deal with this, or shooter, you only had one job. There's so many people who are openly thinking that they're good people who support the murder of another person. Just think about that for a second. No good reason to want them murdered, by the way. Just want them dead. And these are the good, compassionate leftists. And they want you shot in public, in front of your family and your supporters. That's what they want. That would have given them joy. It would have made them happy. And these are the people who call you a scumbag, who say you don't care about life. Oh boy, there is a strong inability to be honest in this whole thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if somebody tries to try again. If I was Trump, I'd try to stay away from California. I'll try to stay away from Illinois. I'll probably try to stay away from parts of Texas. I'll probably try to stay away from it because you never know. You never know. This was Pennsylvania. This is a blue state, Pennsylvania. If it was going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen in a blue state. So he about to ride around in the Pope mobile. Remember, Joe Biden got, what was that, 81 million votes? Now they're trying to kill Trump. They smeared him. Like somebody had a video of Tucker Carlson. You know, you smeared him, you impeached him, you indicted him, you arrested him, you convicted him, but none of that was able to stop him. Now you got to shoot him. You left with no options. You left with no options other than killing him. So I do believe that they will try again. I think it'll be harder to do this time. There are some people saying it was an inside job on the Secret Service. I don't know about that. That would be crazy if it was, wouldn't it? That would be sick. But there's no evidence of that so far. There's no evidence. But it is weird how a guy apparently set up a sniper's nest and the Secret Service didn't catch it. That's real suspicious. So, what a wild time, brother. I understand see, the thing is, a lot of people now try to, I don't like when they do this. I don't like when people try to take things and change the context of them. Yes, Joe Biden said that it's time to put Trump in a bullseye. He didn't literally mean shoot him. He never would have literally wanted people to shoot him. I do not believe that Joe Biden would want Donald Trump to get shot at. Okay? I don't believe that. Do I believe that some of Biden's handlers would want Trump shot? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But Biden himself, probably not. See, a lot of times people realize what martyrdom is. And that martyrdom actually helps the person who was the martyr. And that in killing him, you take him off the board, but you open the door to somebody even worse. And you delegitimize your own party. And you delegitimize the election. You essentially start civil war. And I know the Beanie Man, Tim Pool, has been talking about civil war for 6 years now. Now he's finally got his evidence that civil war is likely around the corner. Is it going to be what we believe? No. But there was recently a bunch of hackers that decided they were going to hack the Heritage Foundation, who was the creators of the Project 2025 manifesto or whatever. That's the kind of civil war that people are not paying attention to. Weirdos with computers hacking into your accounts, going through your emails, making your email information public, publishing, leaking all your email documents, all your work stuff, work files, trying to figure out where you get money from. That's the kind of civil war we're living in now. We're not living in civil war where actually people are going to be shooting each other in the street. We're going to be living in a civil war where people are going to start getting doxxed and their lives are going to get ruined. They've been doing that a lot lately, but it's going to be worse. It's going to be a lot more people who are going to have their lives absolutely destroyed. People are probably going to get set up with child porn. Don't be surprised if people don't start getting jammed up with hookers and prostitutes. People are going to start getting lawsuits put up on them, which is a favorite among the Supreme Court, where all of a sudden you're running for the Supreme Court, you're a rapist. That's happened at least twice. Funny how it happened twice against the same political party. They know how to get rid of people. They don't need to kill you anymore. They will ruin your reputation. And there's 100 million ways to do it. And they can do it without leaving their house. So the shooter was left with no option because they had already did everything that they could do on Trump. They had already raided Mar-a-Lago. They already knew about his affairs with porn stars. People already knew that stuff. And it didn't stop him. Because most people said, whatever it is he's doing, it's not as bad as what you are doing. And they're right. They're right. Whatever Trump's faults are, they're not as bad as these psychopaths who want to stop him. It's just that simple. For all of his flaws, for all of his crassness, the other side is worse. They just play nice very well. They sometimes when they're not utterly disgusted by them, but they want you to wallow in misery while claiming that they're going to help you. And this is not a both sides argument, because I truly believe that some Republicans actually want to help. They're just ineffective in doing so. And some of them are inept. The Democrats will turn your misery into cash, into an industry, like they have done with homelessness, mental illness, and drugs. There are people who want you homeless, mentally ill, and unmedicated, and strung out in the street on drugs because they have NGOs that get taxpayer money. That's evil. It does not matter that they sound nice. Doesn't matter what it sounds like. What is it actually doing? You actually don't do anything. You just sit back and you collect a check, claiming that you're helping the homeless. And the homeless are still homeless. The drug addicts are still on drugs. You're giving them free drugs, free heroin needles, and putting them back out on the street. You're telling young girls that being a prostitute whether it's on OnlyFans or sex work or being an escort and opening herself up to drug abuse, domestic violence, STDs, unwanted pregnancies, abortion, and other forms of abuse is perfectly okay. And it is a legitimate job. That's evil. If somebody is telling you something that is destructive to you, it is evil. It does not matter how much they smile. It doesn't matter that they care so much about black people or they claim that they do. At the end of the day, the outcome that they have chosen for you is for you to destroy yourself. Go ahead, destroy yourself. No, we will tell people we're going to help you, but ultimately, you're going to destroy yourself. So, I'm not telling people what to vote for. I'm not into that. I'm not a Republican. That's a big surprise to people. I'm not a Republican, I'm a libertarian. Small L libertarian, because that big L libertarian stuff is a disaster. It's just as gay and weird as being a Democrat. Which is why when I care about policy, I don't really care about people too much. They can shoot Trump. Shoot him if you want. If that's what you want to do. It's not going to help your case at all. You're still evil. It's just now everybody knows it. So you can do that. If they had succeeded, what would have happened? Everybody would have just seen their evil on the news. That's it. But you already know they're evil because they're promoting that young girls have their breasts removed. You already know they're evil because they're going on television and saying that little boys should have their balls removed. You already know they're evil. Assassinating somebody, killing somebody in public is more understandable than tricking children into mutilating their own bodies. That's next level evil. That is an evil most people did not even consider 20 years ago. Wasn't even considered 10 years ago. You could not run on that 10 years ago. You couldn't run on it 8 years ago. You can run on it now, though. That's how they've normalized some of the evil shit that they have people believing is healthcare. It's evil shit. They tell you they care about black people. You mentioned that all these black children are being aborted. They just look at you and shrug. And then they'll bring out your Kendrick Lamars or your Taraji P. Hensons and tell you that, well, these black people don't have a problem with it. I don't got to be stupid because they are. Is that the world we live in? I have to be stupid because they are? You're telling me that we've stifled the black population and replaced them with illegal immigrants. And I'm not supposed to notice that. I'm not supposed to talk about that. That's weird. That's weird. No, I paid attention. Okay. 25 minutes into this thing, let's start talking about Project 2025. So, the Democratic Party, it got everybody all in a huff, all in a tizzy about Project 2025. It started talking about it being white nationalist and Christian nationalism and all this kind of stuff. They put out a 922-page manifesto called the Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. You don't need to read this entire document. You almost never need to read the entire document. I have a master's degree. Very rarely do we read the entire book. You can get the general idea from looking for what the general idea of it is. The structure of this thing is simple. There's a piece of this that is called the conservative promise. That is all the policy goals that they're laying out. The rest of the book is a collection of essays from various contributors. So there used to be a book series. I forget what it's called, but it was basically like cultural issues, right? I mean, I used to pick these up when I was in college. And what it would be a collection of essays on a subject. And you would get the Democrats and you would get the Republicans or the leftists and the conservatives, and they will all pitch in thoughts on this subject. One of my favorites was media, right? So you'll get the conservative opinion on the media, you get the leftist opinion on the media, and it'd be just essays from different academics poured into one book. And you could just read these essays and you could quote them if you wanted to for your little papers and everything, right? This is similar, except for all of these people are conservatives and they're mainstream Republicans. All right. The most boring, milk toast mainstream Republicans you could possibly find. It's the Heritage Foundation. And this thing was published in 2023. All right. So there's seven sections. Five. There's five sections. Again, this thing is 900 pages. I'm not going to read all of this. I'm not even about to attempt to go through all of this. But I took some notes from what I did read. And it says that the project is built on 4 pillars. And I'm going to read those pillars to you and see if you can find Christian nationalism or racism in any of these things. So it says, Pillar 1, this volume puts in one place a consensus view of how major federal agencies must be governed and where disagreement exists. Brackets out these differences for the next president to choose a path. This is about the administrative state, federal agencies. Pillar 2 is a personnel database that allows candidates to build their own professional profiles and our coalition members to review and voice their recommendations. These recommendations would then be collated and shared with the president-elect's team, greatly streamlining the appointment process. So what they're talking about here is political appointees. We're going to help the president choose the next leaders of these organizations, these various administrative things. We're going to take the resumes and the thoughts and the opinions and what these people like, and we're going to collate them, and we're going to present them to the next president, if he be a Republican or Democrat, because it doesn't say he has to be a Republican, to streamline the process of finding good political appointees. The third pillar is the Presidential Administration Academy, an online educational system taught by experts from our coalition. For the newcomer, this will explain how the government functions and how to function in government. For the experienced, we will host in-person seminars with advanced training and set the bar for what is expected of senior leadership. So basically, they're going to create an online school that's teaching civics. That's pretty much what it is, teaching civics. And the fourth pillar is the actual playbook. He says, we are forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of "So help me God." Basically, they're going to put together a transition team for the president once he is sworn in. Again, this is just the Heritage Foundation. This is not anyway anything radical or over the top. Now, the conservative promise is the important element because that's where all the policy stuff is. And the conservative promise, once I get to it, I took notes on it, but I want to be able to read you directly parts from this thing. It's simple if you know anything about the Republican platform, what they feel about certain subjects. It doesn't really deviate too much from that. So they have 4 conservative promises. Promise number 1, to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. Number 2, dismantling the administrative state and putting self-governance back in the hands of the people. Number 3, defending our nation's sovereignty, borders, and global threats. And 4, securing the God-given right to live freely. Now, you can, if you don't believe me, you can do, let's say you're concerned about Christian nationalism. You can just download this document, go to your search bar, put in the word Christian. I did that. The word Christian appears 7 times, and not once does it say anything about Christian nationalism. It certainly doesn't say anything about white nationalism. So let's go through some of these conservative promises. This is as far as I went. I didn't go deep into it. Once I saw that it was a collection of essays from various authors, I say, man, this thing is 900 pages. There's just no way I'm going to be able to get through this. Nobody's going to be able to get through this. And I'm almost certain it's not going to deviate much from what is in the promises. I can almost guarantee you it's not going to go further than this. Now, promise 1, restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. So in this thing, I'm not going to read it all, but they have some ideas if you were to read through this. The first thing they talk about is the importance of family. He says the name real people give to things we do together is community, not government, which is absolutely true. He talks about the mediating institutions and the government. The mediating institutions that serve as the building blocks of any healthy society are marriage, family, work, church, school, and volunteering. The name real people give to the things we do together is community, not government. That is as conservative, boilerplate conservative as it gets. Even libertarians will agree with that. Then they start talking about the American family being in crisis, which is essentially all the out of wedlock childbirth, which, again, conservatives talk about endlessly. The next thing is the only thing in here that, well, not the only thing in here, but the only thing in this part that might drive the left crazy, because they started talking about deleting the left-wing lexicon. Things like DEI, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and all of these other things. They want that stuff taken out. They want to get rid of it. All right. So there's going to be some leftists that's going to trip about that, because they want all that stuff in public schools. They want all that stuff in human resources and federal agencies and the military. They want that stuff everywhere. They're saying get rid of it, get it out of there. It has a negative effect on the family. We don't want that. You're talking about banning porn, which pretty much every conservative I have ever listened to has said they wanted to ban porn. I haven't met a conservative that didn't want to ban porn. They talked about school choice. Schools should serve parents, not the other way around. Universal school choice is something that they talked about. Again, boilerplate conservatism. Wanted to get rid of critical race theory and gender ideology, which is the same thing as the DEI and all that other stuff that they talked about already. They want to end child sex reassignments It says, quote, allowing parents or physicians to reassign the sex of a minor is child abuse and must end. That is clearly something that is going to be a problem for the left. But when you realize that a child cannot consent to sex reassignment, and a parent, while the parent can usually consent on the child's behalf, to ask for a parent to be able to make that sort of permanent decision is a little bit, it's a little weird. Now, this is where you will, of course, say, as a leftist, you would say, you want the adults to make the decisions. Well, this is the adults making the decisions. You don't trust the adults at that point. If the parents want the child to be sex reassigned because the child said so, conservatives, why are you trying to pass laws to prevent that? That would be a good argument. But that's, to me, common sense. You shouldn't want to reassign your child's sex, because that does feel more like politics than healthcare to me. They want to ban federal money going towards these sex reassignments, and saying, quote, for public institutions to use taxpayer dollars to declare the superiority or inferiority of certain races, sexes, religions is a violation of the Constitution and civil rights law and cannot be tolerated by any government anywhere in the country. They want to ban all this stuff about white supremacy, because saying that some people are white supremacists makes them targets for hatred and abuse and mistreatment, which is true. It is absolutely true. So they want to be able to ban or at least take taxpayer dollars away from these institutions that support that, which would include contractors, it would include government agencies, it would include schools, which is fine. I'm okay with that. And then, of course, they start talking about abortion, which I know the left really, really loves. They really, really love abortion. They want to federally support and on the state level support adoptions rather than abortions. I fully support the idea of ending the federal funding of abortion. I do ask the question, why is everything that the left likes have to be federally funded? Everything has to come from the state. Why can they not find ways of funding these programs themselves that they have to hit the taxpayer for it? Every single time. They're nailing the taxpayer for all of these programs that they want, whether it's public schools, abortions, gender shit, all this kind of stuff. They just tap it right into the vein of taxpayer money. This is what we mean by when we talk about the administrative state, the deep state, is that there's tons of NGOs and other organizations that almost immediately, soon as the left decides it's a must do, they tap it right into the taxpayers to guarantee them income so that those ideas cannot pass or fail in popularity on their own. Promise number 2 is to dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. The very first thing they mention in this promise is the reduction in the size of government, which they says conservatives desire a smaller government not for its own sake, but for the sake of human flourishing. But the Washington establishment does not want a constitutionally limited government because it means they lose power and are held more accountable by the people who put them in power. This is correct. All right, this is not an issue. So they start talking about making the federal government smaller and more effective and more accountable. Then they start talking about budgets, which is all boring, okay? But they want the Congress to actually start passing budgets. and issue specific bills to their programs. They want to be able to restrain the power of the administrators. Basically, they want the executive branch, and the legislative branch to stop abdicating their power to the administrative state. So they talk about the separation of powers in here. Now, this is something that was recently dealt with the Supreme Court, what's called Chevron deference, right? So what happened with Chevron deference is, I'm not going to go too deep into it because I don't know a lot about it. But as it stood for about 40 years, if there was a vagueness in the law and a business and a regulatory agency debated about what that vagueness in the law meant, they would go to court, and the court would automatically side with the administrator, the regulator, as he is the person who is applying the regulation. So his version of the law always passed. With this new Supreme Court decision, they're saying that's not the case anymore. You can't just say, well, I'm a regulator. What I say about X, Y, and Z should be taken at face value as axiomatic truth. And of course, they blew up and had an absolute, the administrators, they have no power, no authority anymore. It's like, that's not true. All they're saying is these people can't write their own laws. They can't say, well, there is some vagueness in the law, therefore what we say goes. And people say, well, they're the experts. It's like, well, the business also hires experts. What makes your experts better than theirs? That's why you have to hash this thing out in science, and not just, we're just going to throw the entire weight of the federal government or the circuit courts or whatever behind this side and not ever give this other side a chance. Sometimes you're not right. And of course, they had a fit about that. Oh, Chevron deference is gone. Oh, who cares? These lousy administrators most of them shouldn't exist anyway. But that's me being a libertarian, not me being a conservative. It says today, most policy is no longer set by Congress at all, but by the administrative state. Given the choice between being powerful but vulnerable or irrelevant but famous, most members of Congress has chosen the latter, meaning that the administrators are writing their own laws. That's what was going on with Chevron deference. That is no longer the case now. It says Congress passes intentionally vague laws that delegate decision-making over a given issue to a federal agency. That agency's bureaucrats, not just unelected, but seemingly unfireable, then leap at a chance to fill the vacuum created by Congress's preening cowardice. The federal government is growing larger and larger and less constitutionally accountable, even to the president, every year. And that's what this whole thing is about. This is what we talk about when we talk about fighting the deep state. These people who have seemingly unlimited power, and they operate on their own without Congress, without the president, and nobody doing anything about it. They can just do whatever they want. So that's the second pillar. And they go more into that. And they talk about they says, quote, unaccountable federal spending is the secret lifeblood of the Great Awakening. Nearly every power center held by the left is funded or supported one way or another through the bureaucracy by Congress. Colleges and school districts are funded by tax dollars. The administrative state holds 100% of its power at the sufferance of Congress. And its insulation from the presidential discipline is an unconstitutional fairy tale spun by the Washington establishment to protect its turf. Members of Congress shield themselves from constitutional accountability, often when the White House allows them to get away with it. Cultural institutions like public libraries and public health agencies are only, quote, independent from public accountability as elected officials and voters permit. In other words, they are bureaucrats. Your librarian is a bureaucrat. All right? So they don't want Congress or the president abdicating any authority to the administrative state. They want the administrators to actually just do your job. Your job is to execute the law. It's Congress's job to write the law, and it's the president's job to make sure that the law is properly executed. But then we go to promise number 3. Defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. So this is where we get a lot of the real ish from conservatives, because they start going off about intellectual elites and all this kind of stuff, which I'm very impressed with. Because, even though they are kind of also intellectual elites. It says, quote, America's corporate and political elites do not believe in the ideals to which our nation is dedicated: self-governance, the rule of law, and order, liberty. They certainly do not trust the American people, and they disdain this Constitution's restrictions on their ambitions. Which is all very true. It's all very true. Just pay attention to what they say. It says, progressive policymakers and pundits in America either fail to understand this premise or intentionally reject it. They enthusiastically support supranational organizations like the United Nations and the European Union, which are run and staffed almost entirely by people who share their values and are mostly insulated from the influence of national elections. This is going to be a big thing for the rest of our discussion. Supranational organizations like the United Nations and the European Union. The left loves these things, right? They love NATO. They love the United Nations. They love the World Economic Forum. But the United States is different from England. It's different from France. It's different from Canada. We're a different country. We have different laws. They even mention it later in here that all of these treaties and all these organizations, it actually waters down our rights. And this is something that we're really going to discuss later when we start talking about Ben Shapiro and GARM. And this was really what blew my mind as I listened to Ben Shapiro talk very quickly with these advertisers, because I didn't know this until it came up. But GARM is an arm of the World Economic Forum, and it's not even based in the United States. It's based in like London or Belgium or something. So you have all of these countries, or this country that is hosting this alliance of these multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporations who are accountable to nobody, that are bigger than most governments, and they're operating not on what American law is, but what they feel it should be, what they feel is right. That's a problem. Trust me. It's, again, I said this earlier. It's not about the person. Ben Shapiro can be an Israel stooge if he wants to. That's fine. The issue he's talking about, though, is legitimate. It's never about the person. He's completely self-serving in his why he went up there too. Not relevant. What is relevant is that he's correct in what he's talking about. But we'll talk about that when we get there. So they don't want to be a part of NATO, United Nations, all the European Union, all these organizations that dilute your national pride, dilute your national laws. They're manipulating your systems and all this kind of stuff, manipulating your institutions. When you see people get up on stage and they're talking about what Europe thinks of the United States, that's always a weird thing to me, right? You hear this from the leftists all the time. Oh, England, they love us now because Joe Biden is the president. They didn't like us when Trump was the president. Like, why the fuck do we care about what England thinks? Why do we care about what the French thinks? Really? I'm not French. I don't care what France thinks. I don't care about what Sweden thinks. Why do we care about what they think? Why do we care about what Canadians think or Mexicans or anything? We don't care. We have a national interest in certain things. Why do we care? But they care because to them, this globalist, socialist, communist, whatever probably not communist, it's globally socialist at the very least. This system is beneficial. It's a way of backdooring and applying pressure to get what they want. And we're going to talk about what they want when we get to Agenda 2030. That's a United Nations thing. So GARM, which we talk about Ben Shapiro, that's going to be in the private sector. In the public sector, we're going to be talking about what is it called? Sustainable. Because they use that word a lot. That sustainable crap. Sustainable development goals. That's what they're going to talk about. That's where we're going to be in when we talk about what's the name? Agenda 2030. So, what's next? They want to attack economic globalism. They don't want to deal with economic globalism, the World Economic Forum, all that garbage. Communist China. They don't want anything to do with that. They want to take on big tech and all of their censorship, which is absolutely true. But mostly they want to deal with big tech and big tech's influence in our elections and our politics, knowing that big tech is influenced by other nations like China and TikTok, for instance, right? And it's right here, clear as crystal. In here, it says they let the CCP set their corporate policies about mobile apps. He's talking about TikTok. And they run interference for our rivals' political priorities in Washington. One side of big tech companies' business model is old-fashioned American competitiveness and world-changing technological innovation. But increasingly, that side of the business is overshadowed by their role as operatives in the lucrative employ of America's most dangerous international enemy. You talk about TikTok and how TikTok, as a Chinese app, gives the Chinese data and information on the Americans, and it gives them influence over American politics. It's common sense. It's not something that we shouldn't be crowing about. It's definitely something we should be paying attention to. So they also want to assert American energy dominance over the rest of the world, which is one thing I don't agree with. I don't agree with us forcing American market dominance over everybody else. I'm not with that. That's going to cause a war. So that's just asking for war right there, brother. And I don't want none of that. The fourth promise, the final promise, individual rights. To secure our God-given individual right to enjoy the blessings of liberty. When the founders spoke of the pursuit of happiness, what they might meant be understood today, in essence, is the pursuit of blessedness. What the hell is that? That is, an individual must be free to live as his creator ordained, to flourish, Our Constitution grants each of us the liberty to do not what we want, but what we ought. That's an interesting word. This pursuit of the good life is found primarily in family, marriage, children, Thanksgiving dinners, and the like. Many find happiness through work. Think of dedicated teachers or healthcare professionals you know, entrepreneurs or plumbers, throwing themselves into their business. Anyone who sees a job well done as a personal reward. Religious devotion and spirituality are the greatest forces of happiness around the world. Still, others find themselves happiest in their local voluntary communities of friends, their neighbors, and civic or charitable work. So the freedom to flourish, but then they start talking about free enterprise, capitalism, which is what I want to see from conservatives. Because then when you start talking about Tucker Carlson, who's talking about, banning self-driving cars because, you got to protect the truckers and all that kind of stuff. That's psychotic. Why would you do that? So they start talking about, free enterprise and the greatness of free enterprise and all that stuff, which, they start talking about communism, the fall of socialism, etc. All the stuff we already know. They spend some time critiquing collectivism, socialism, fascism, all that kind of stuff. And they want to live in a voluntary society with freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, and economic freedom. That's the first 50 pages of the Mandate for Leadership Project 2025. That's the first 50 pages. Now, what you get from there is a collection of articles written by individual contributors. I can almost guarantee you it's not going to go much further than that. It's just going to be people expounding upon what they said. Now, I listened to Joy Reid go off about Project 2025 about it's white nationalism. There's no white nationalism here. There's none. There is attacks on the trans stuff. There's school choice stuff in here, which is not stuff that the left likes, but it's boilerplate conservatism. There's nothing radical in here. There's no talk about defunding the FBI, despite the fact that I would like to see that. There is no talk about defunding the FBI. There is some talk, however, of restricting and reforming the FBI later in the article, later in the paper, the book, if you want to call this 900 pages, it's fair to call it a book. You say that the FBI should be restricted to public safety and defending the rule of law. That's in the section called General Welfare. And chapter 17 said Department of Justice by Gene Hamilton said restrict and reform the whole Department of Justice, including the FBI, to align with its intended purpose, which is to advance national interests. That's all they talk about when it comes to the FBI. And it's very weird that the left is defending the FBI. They talk about the FBI infiltrating the Black Panther Party and COINTELPRO, and then they'll sit here right now, look you right in the face, and defend the FBI. What is wrong with these people? Like the right constantly talks about the ATF. They need to get rid of the ATF. Oh, the ATF, man, look what they did in Waco, or was it Ruby Ridge? Just one or the other. Might have been both. I think the FBI might have been involved with both of those situations. They never get rid of it. You never want to get rid of it. So Project 2025 is boilerplate conservatism. The first 50 pages are basically all the policy ideas that they want the president to have. And then the rest of it is individuals who operate and live in that work in all these different conservative agencies, saying what they want to do, how they want the government to be structured and all this kind of stuff. And it is all boilerplate conservatism. It is not anything white nationalist in here, as I knew it wouldn't be. Not anything in there about defunding the FBI, but it's just typical stuff. Conservatives don't like abortion. They want to ban abortions. Conservatives don't like uh, public schools, so they want to ban public schools. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, or at least defund public schools and restructure that. So there's nothing out of the ordinary. There's 850 other pages to that thing, though. So who knows? Maybe somebody else is going to go through it page by page and come up with something scary in there, but I don't think so. So we talked about earlier that Project 2025, they don't want no supranational organization. They don't want no United Nations, no NATO. They don't want them writing and coming up with policies for the American people. They don't want that. And I agree with this. But then you see the United Nations, what they're going to do what they do. They have a thing called the Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 goals. You go to sdgs.un.org. There's 17 goals here. We're going to go through these because I want to just show you what's been going on. And now this thing has been up since 2015. It's called the 2030 Agenda. Here's the history of it. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, and now into the future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. This is one world government stuff. All right. It's all one world government stuff. Okay. Most of this shit is just impossible to do. All right. Now they did put out a progress report, which I didn't read. It. I was lazy. I didn't read this. It's 26 pages. I'm skimming through it. You know what? Let's just go through what the 17 stages are. I'm not prepared enough to go through that right now. So here are the 17 goals. Goal number 1, no poverty, which is utopianism. Right off the jump. They're telling you something that is impossible right from the beginning, to end poverty. You cannot end poverty. You cannot. Not globally. You cannot globally end poverty. How much power does one need to end poverty? It's impossible. All right. End poverty in all its forms, everywhere. It sounds great. Sounds great. They got a nice little graph here. You know, it sounds good. But who's going to do this? Where's the money going to come from to do all this? You can't have global goals without like a global government to do this. The second one is zero hunger. They're going to ban hunger. End hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. So who's going to do this stuff? How are you going to do this? How are you going to, what is promote sustainable agriculture? These things might conflict with ending hunger, right? What is more important here? Ending hunger or improve nutrition or sustainable agriculture? Because these things, it might be possible for you to end hunger, but it might not improve nutrition. And it might not be sustainable agriculture. So what happens when you have these goals that are already lofty and virtually impossible? And yet they conflict. They give us another nice little graph here. And they make sure to show all these African children in the pictures. You can look at this, ain't nothing but Africans and Indians, bro. Number 3 is good health and well-being. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. All of this is very lofty. And I'm looking at this, they're talking about malaria vaccines. You need Big Pharma to do that. They want to get rid of Big Pharma. They want to talk about women dying from preventable causes. Okay. But you're not going to allow the R&D necessary to develop, things like vaccines or whatever, because you don't like innovation. You want to tax people to death and then expect them to have tons of money. It's just impossible. So here's another one. Quality education. Another thing that nobody could disagree with any of these things. If it was possible for us to wave a magic wand and do all of these things and not destroy everybody's quality of life, I'd wave it. Unfortunately, it's not possible. So here's number 4. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Inclusive and equitable quality education. Bro, this is like a global classroom. Is that what we're talking about here? It's impossible. This is not possible to have a global classroom. You would think it would be easier to do. This would be easy to do. Pretty much even poor Africans have YouTube. You could have something that where people can log in and take free classes. I know that MIT has it, I think, where you can log on to MIT and take some free classes. People don't take advantage of that. It's just ridiculous. How many teachers do you need for this? Where are your teachers going to come from? Number 5 is global equality. So, you got to have some gender shit in there. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. I see no empowering men in here. So you're already off to the wrong start. You should say all people. And then here's one of the things in the chart. Nearly half of married women lack decision-making power over their sexual and reproductive health and rights. So it's about abortion. Global abortion. This is what we're talking about here. And then here's another one that they want in here. Legislated gender quotas are effective to achieve equality in politics. They're telling you that your country will need a gender quota. This is what they're telling you. Your country is going to need a gender quota because women are easier to control than men, which is why the left plays so much into women. They're easier to control than men. Not to say that men is impossible to control. They're just easier to control. They're easier to manipulate with all of this bullshit, like ending poverty and hunger and having everybody having the same education. They believe that shit. It's not possible for brothers to have the same education. You can grow up in the same household with somebody and have different access to education. Here's another one. This is goal number 6. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. This is great. I would love if we could have drinking water for everybody. Nobody's against everybody having drinking water. Nobody's against that. The question is, how are you going to do it when you have handicapped the businesses, or you're complaining that the people who might build a well is trying to be a white savior or some shit like that? Like, there's not much you can do about that at that point. Affordable, clean energy. That's number 7. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Okay. Electricity, solar. Okay. Okay, that's no problem. People definitely will need that. 700, it says 675 million people still live in the dark. 4 and 5 of them are in sub-Saharan Africa. Why can't Africans get electricity? What's going on, brother? Get electricity, bro. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. What does that mean? What does it mean, decent work and economic growth? It says promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Full employment, even for people with cognitive problems, even for the handicapped, even for the blind and the deaf. It's not possible. It's not possible, man. People are different. They have different interests. They have different things that they want to do in life. And here's, again, when you look at things, you look at some of their graphs and shit. Here's one of the things. 2 billion workers are in precarious, informal jobs without social protection. What does that mean? They don't have unions, is what they're saying. They're saying they don't have unions. They didn't use that word, but social protection. 2 billion workers are in precarious, informal jobs without social protection. Why do they need social protection? Just go to work. Get a job, you bums. They want globalized unionization. Get out of here with that crap. I told you this stuff all sounds good on paper. Nobody's against any of this stuff. It's just, how in the world are you possibly going to make it work? It's impossible. Number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Let's see what this is. Build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Well, innovation comes from free markets. You don't want a free market because that will create inequality. And I know on this list somewhere it's going to be about reducing inequality. I already looked at it. This is about pollution and all this kind of stuff. I'm looking at it now. So there's that. Number 9 is about pollution. Oh, we want to have infrastructure and all this kind of stuff, but we don't want to pollute at all, which is, again, impossible. Number 10, reduce inequality. Reduce inequality within and among countries. So every country needs to be more of the same. Again, not possible. Different countries have different climates, different populations, different education, different desires, different cultures, different focuses. The Swedish and the English are 2 different things, despite the fact that they're in Europe. And most Americans descended from Europeans. They have a different culture than Canadians, are also descended from Europeans. Africans are different from African Americans, who are different from Jamaicans, who are different from Haitians. Fuck, all these people are different. How are you going to make the world the same? How are you going to do that? How are you going to make the world the same? You can't. There's it's like Thomas Sowell says, some places have more tornadoes than others. How can you reduce that inequality? You can't. Some places they don't have enough rain. How are you going to fix that? You going to terraform the planet? Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Uh-oh. They want you to live in the projects. They're going to make a bigger project for you. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. These words don't mean a damn thing, bro. It's just, how many times have I seen the word sustainable or inclusive? What does any of this crap mean? What does any of this stuff mean? And it says human settlements. A village is a human settlement. I don't want to live in a village. I like my cities or my suburbs, you know? Goal number 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Again, with the word sustainable, what does this mean? You're talking about waste. I don't care about this. All this stuff is empty. Now, of course, we get into the climate stuff. So here it is. Climate action, number 13. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Climate change. Ooh, you knew this was coming, right? You can't let none of these supranational organizations pass without hearing about climate change, for God's sakes. Now, we're gonna feed all the people. We're going to create jobs for everybody. Everybody's gonna have full employment. Everybody's gonna have a sustainable living space. But now we have to take care of the marine life. So now we got to control the lives of whales and penguins. Number 14, the 14 goal, conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Protect the blue, protect the earth. Oh my God. Now you can't, they're talking about illegal fishing. You went from we need to feed everybody to now there's a thing called illegal and unregulated fishing. What if this society eats fish and they need to illegally obtain fish so they can feed that society? You are having goals that contradict each other. It's already impossible. Now it's impossible even more so with the limitations you put on. Now we've gone from we have to save all the marine life, the whales and the penguins and the sea lions, to now we also have to save the giraffes and the goddamn elephants. Number 15, protect, restore, and promote sustainable. Next time I do something like this, we're going to play a drinking game. Whenever I see the word sustainable, I'm going to take a drink. So I have to be like Kool-Aid or something, because otherwise I'm going to have a bad liver afterwards. Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage the forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. So we got to protect all the trees, while at the same time making sure everybody has the same amount of industries, while also trying to make sure that everybody eats, while also making sure everybody has a school, while also making sure no there is no homeless people, while also making sure we don't poison the water, while also making sure that nobody gets sick. What is happening here? We can't do all this shit. It's not, and they don't believe in God. Like, this is the killer. God could probably do this. Snap his fingers and fix all these problems. We can't do this. Even if all the world work together, you can't do this. Global communism is not going to work. You're just going to starve more people and kill them. Number 16, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Oh my God, these words don't mean a damn thing. It's just inclusive, sustainable, inclusive, sustainable, inclusive, sustainable. It's like, come on. Now, all of our countries have different laws. All right. So when you start talking about inclusive institutions for everybody and all this kind of shit in global justice. What are we talking about here? Now, here they're talking about sex trafficking. I can give you that. Okay. They're talking about people being forcibly displaced. But what does that mean? What do you mean by forcibly displaced? What does that mean? Was there a military or some other body of government that forced people to move from one place to another? What happens? It says 2021 saw the highest number of intentional homicides in 20 years. Yes, we know that Haitians and Jamaicans are murdering each other at really high rates. And so are, some people in South America and people in St. Louis and Detroit and stuff. There's nothing we can do about that. But here's another thing that, again, come out of nowhere. The youth face underrepresentation in politics. Bro, this is stupid. This is just ridiculous. All of this sounds great. It all sounds fantastic. But my God, this global stuff is ridiculous. And the last one, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. This is the last one. I don't even know what any of this stuff means. Now they're talking about debt, trade, how many people have the internet. None of this stuff is impossible to do on a global level. You might be able to help people out to do it on a national level, but you can't do it on a global level. It's impossible. It's impossible to do all this stuff. And all these goals are conflicting. This stuff doesn't work. So that's Agenda 2030. It's basically global socialism. I mean, there's not much you can do to even end poverty and hunger. This is the first two things on their list. It's impossible to do. The only thing we can do is provide for the impoverished and the hungry what we can, and we best do that through charity. And the better way to do that is not through global aid. We need to get rid of aid. No aid. All right. That just gives money to the warlords who take their piece off from the top, and almost none of it goes to the people. You're better off just dropping rice from the sky. That's the best you can do. And we overproduce food sometimes. So that's good for us, and it's good for some other countries too. But who is to say that you have all these lofty goals specifically for Africa and India and and who says they even want you doing all this stuff in their country? Who wants you to come to their country and do your global gender equity? Who the hell? I'm pretty sure the Africans don't want you coming to Africa doing global gender equity. Get the fuck out of here. They might not complain about the water. Okay, you want to build a well or something like that, but when you start telling them how they have to educate their children and what they have to teach their children, you're going to have a problem. How else are you going to do this without force? Are you going to go to China and tell them that they must have free speech like the United States? They're going to tell you to fuck off. Or you must allow, Christianity in your country. They're going to tell you to fuck off. So you're going to have inequality because not everybody's going to accept the same goals. Thanks to everybody for stopping by. I'm still going to be going. Just I see that Muhammad is leaving. He said take care. So I say the same thing to him. Absolutely, it should not be tolerated. I think Donald Trump he's fine. He just nicked his ear a little bit. He's a tough guy. He'll be okay. All right, so let's go into. We got two more subjects. We went through half of our subjects so far. Our next subject is Donald J. Trump Agenda 47. We're going to go through Agenda 47. He's got 20 core promises to make America great again. While the left is running around talking about Project 2025, this is what his real plan is. His real plan is Agenda 47. And we're going to go through this. It's 16 pages. I'm not going to go through it all. It's going to basically give the highlights from his website. And yeah, see, the thing is, man, I started out as I didn't start out as a political YouTuber. I started out as a wrestling YouTuber. So he's got 20 plans. I'm pretty sure all of this is not going to be good, but let's see what your boy got here for Agenda 47. I'm pretty sure I'm about to grumble at some of this. All right. It says their commitments: number one, secure the border. This is from the Republicans. This is not Agenda 47. Agenda 47, number one, had rebuild the economy. We talked about opportunity zones and tax cuts. Where is that on the website? Oh, that's because I'm looking at the party platform. I don't care about the party platform. Ain't no Republican. But it's still number one is seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Oh, that's because I'm on. Oh wait, I was on the right page. What am I doing? We're gonna talk about what they shot him over. They shot him to stop him from doing Agenda 2025 and found out there was nothing but boilerplate conservatism in there. So now here it is, Agenda 47. It says, one, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Two, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. Three, end inflation and make America affordable again. That's vague. Number four, make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far. That's very Trumpian. Five, stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? How? Number six, large tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips. Okay, that's a good one. Number seven, defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our fundamental freedoms, including freedom of speech, religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. I wonder if getting shot was going to change his opinion on the Second Amendment. I really want to know if he's going to change his opinion on the Second Amendment now that he's gotten shot. Let's see. Number eight, prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe and in the Middle East, and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our country, all made in America. Does the U.S. really need an Iron Dome? I know Israel had one, but why do we need one? Who's gonna send rockets to the United States? Who's that stupid? Canada ain't gonna bomb the United States, and Mexico ain't gonna bomb the United States. Why are we building an Iron Dome, Trump? For what? Against who? Israel built an Iron Dome because their enemies are literally on their doorstep. We don't have that problem. So why are we building an Iron Dome? What is that for? Nine, end the weaponization of government against the American people. Well, that's vague, but I agree with that. 10, stop the migrant crime epidemic. There's four things on here about migrants. Demolish the foreign drug cartels, crush gang violence, and lock up violent offenders. Not violent offenders, but violent. Now, I looked at the DJT platform website, the Vision for National Greatness. Now, he did talk about the drug cartels, but there was one thing in there that gave me a big red flag. He wanted drug smugglers to get the death penalty. And I was like, whoa, that's a little stiff. That's stiff. That's a stiff one. drug smugglers to get the death penalty. I know they do that like in like the Philippines, but we can't. No, I can't support that here. I don't support the death penalty already. But Jesus Christ, Trump, like what the fuck, man? what's wrong with you? Um, no death penalty for drug smugglers. Okay. Number 11, rebuild our cities. Okay, including Washington D.C., make them safe, clean, and beautiful again. All right. Number, he has a plan for that. It was basically revitalizing the police departments, strengthening qualified immunity, which I disagree with, and he wants federal prosecutors and the National Guard in high crime areas, which I definitely do not agree with. I do not want the National Guard handling like street crime. That's not what they're for, bro. No, don't do that. You can't have the National Guard, even though I know it's the state militia. You can't have them and federal prosecutors. Now, the only reason you could get away with that is because he knows that the local prosecutors do not um, do their jobs. A lot of the local prosecutors that are Soros funded prosecutors, they're very, very soft on crime. They've let people out after homicides, walk the street again, rapes, walk the street again. That might be why he decided we're going to bring in federal prosecutors, but still, that's a bit much. You know, I guess as a placeholder it works, but I don't feel good about that. It says 12. It says strengthen and modernize our military, making it without question the strongest and most powerful in the world. The military. He did write on a different site. He said he wanted to rebuild the military's might, pull out and avoid unnecessary foreign wars like Ukraine and Israel. Okay. And then he says he wants to eliminate all of the woke stuff from the military, all the gender stuff, and that would be great if you could do that. I like that idea. Keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency, whatever. Fight for and protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts, including no changes to the retirement age. Ugh. Republicans and their goddamn Social Security and Medicare, for God's sakes. 15, cancel the electric vehicle mandates and cut costly and burdensome regulations. I agree with that. I think electric vehicles should not be mandated. Any plans to move away from gas-powered cars that's centralized by the government is just a way of these people trying to control that industry, the automotive industry, and getting rid of those mandates will really help. We still need electric cars for people who want to choose that, but it shouldn't be taxpayer funded, and there shouldn't be regulations or unions involved in that at all. 16, cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. I agree with that. I agree with that one. 17, keep men out of women's sports. I know that one got them all tight ass. Number 18, deport pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe and patriotic again. You can't do that. You can't deport American citizens just because they're pro-Hamas. You can't do that. As much as you might, I would not complain if you could, but you can't do that. I would deport socialists in a heartbeat, bro. But you can't do it. Where are you going to send them? So many of these pro-Hamas radicals are middle-class white liberals. Where are you going to send them? They're from like New Hampshire and Virginia. Like, where are you going to send them? Deport them where? Deport them to what country? Why are we assuming they're foreigners? They're not foreigners, all of them. Number 19, secure our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship. He's really big on the elections thing. And one site, he said he wanted to ban private money in the elections. He also wants to ban public money in the elections, which is crazy. Who's going to fund the elections? I would rather it be private than public. Number 20, unite our country by bringing it to new and record levels of success, with no explanation to how that's going to happen. So your boy DJT, his Agenda 47. It is, well, this is the 2024 GOP party platform, which has got to be different from Agenda 47. I need to find the actual Agenda 47 because I just looked at it and it's different from what I just read. It's a lot of this stuff overlaps. Like a lot of the Project 2023 stuff overlaps because it's such a boilerplate conservative thing. But I want to find Agenda 47, the actual site, because I ended up on DonaldTrump.com, and I don't want that. That ain't what I'm looking for. Boy. How's everybody doing, man? We hanging in there? People asked me to do a policy matters, and now here it is. People ask for a policy matters, man. They say, "Oh, you got to talk about politics a little bit." Like I don't like talking about politics, really. I like talking about the things. The people don't matter too much. You put in Agenda 47 Donald Trump and nothing comes up but Project 2025. That goes to show you right then and there how successful the media is at hijacking the agenda. They telling you that something the guy says that he's not involved with is something he's definitely involved with no evidence. His name is not on any of these documents. His picture, which is on everything, by the way, because he's such a narcissist. I guess they canceled all of his events. I looked at his events page and there's no events anymore. So I guess that's it. I feel like they changed this since he got shot. That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like they changed this since he got shot. Because now it's just a GOP party platform for 2024. But this is not what I read earlier. I mean, it's a lot of it is the same, but I wanted to read the stuff that I was looking at earlier. The party platform though is 16 pages. There's a lot of stuff in there. I wasn't prepared to read it, so I'm not going to even tackle that right now. I will be wasting your time because I don't know anything about it. But again, a lot of boilerplate with conservatism, not much to it. Except for Trump wants to execute drug dealers, which I would prefer that he not say stuff like that because that's kind of scary, bro. All right, so let's get into our final subject. Do I think Biden has any way to win? Yes. Trump gets assassinated, then Biden wins. It's that simple. Let's talk about this last one, our closer. Ben Shapiro versus GARM. There's a Global Alliance, responsible marketing or responsible something like that. So Ben Shapiro is going to talk very fast, but you're going to understand. You're going to understand what he's saying, and then we're going to go through it. So I'm going to play this whole piece. I should have brought some water because I've been talking for a long time.
We're in the midst of a trust crisis in the world of media, which is because so many of the legacy media have lied in order to preserve left-leaning narratives. To take just the most recent example, We were told by the legacy media that President Biden was just fine. For years, anyone who questioned his health and mental fitness was trafficking in cheap fakes. And then President Biden went out and engaged in a full-scale mental collapse on stage in front of hundreds of millions of people. So we can see why Americans, at least Americans who are not Democrats, do not trust the media. The question isn't really why the legacy media have lost Americans' trust. We know that answer. The question is why, despite that loss of trust, the legacy media continue to gain share in the advertising market. And the answer is simple. There is, in fact, an informal pressure system created by Democratic legislators, this White House, legacy media, advertisers, and pseudo-objective brand safety organizations. That system guarantees that advertising dollars flow only to left-wing media brands. Let me explain how this works. When a conservative competitor to legacy media arises, members of that legacy media and their political allies rush to paint such competitors as dangerous. The commentator Kara Swisher of the New York Times, for example, told the head of YouTube that my videos at Daily Wire were a, quote, gateway drug that would lead children, including her own teenage son, to watch neo-Nazi content. Never mind the yarmulke. Elected Democrats pick up that same messaging. In 2017, Senator Dianne Feinstein told lawyers at Facebook, Google, and Twitter, quote, you created these platforms and now they're being misused, and you have to be the ones to do something about it, or we will. Social media companies react to incentive structures, including threats. They've responded by adopting the standards of third-party left-wing informational safety groups like the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, or GARM. GARM purportedly sets brand safety standards, objective standards by which advertisers and platforms can supposedly determine just what sort of content ought to be deemed safe for advertising. In reality, GARM acts as a cartel. Its members account for 90% of ad spending in the United States, almost $1 trillion. In other words, if you're not getting ad dollars from GARM members, it's nearly impossible to run an ad-based business. And if you're not following their preferred political narratives, the ones that Kara Swisher and Dianne Feinstein would follow, you will not be deemed brand safe. Your business will be throttled. We at Daily Wire have experienced this firsthand. In 2017, after Senator Feinstein made her threats to bring the weight of government down on social media platforms, Daily Wire YouTube channel saw a 1,000% increase in content enforcements over a 2-year period. Since 2021, after Democrat officials further turned up the heat on social media companies, my personal Facebook page has seen an over 80% drop in impressions. Or take Joe Rogan. When Joe said that he had taken ivermectin after getting COVID, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki pressured Spotify to take action, stating, quote, we want every platform to be doing more to call out mis- and disinformation while also uplifting accurate information. Spotify complied. Spotify, of course, works with GARM. So, what are the brand safety standards that GARM uses? The standards begin with inarguable things that we've heard from the other witnesses, like preventing distribution of child sexual abuse material or stopping terrorism. But GARM doesn't draw the line at what is criminal, abusive, or dangerous. Their standards also include restrictions on hate speech, harassment, misinformation, or my personal favorite, insensitive, irresponsible, and harmful treatment of debated, sensitive social issues. Those criteria are highly subjective in theory, and they are purely partisan in practice. For example, last year, Daily Wire host Matt Walsh was fully demonetized on YouTube, a GARM member. Why? For quote-unquote misgendering, which to GARM is to say that men are not women. Perfectly obvious facts now run afoul of GARM's censorship standards. Companies targeted by GARM, like the Daily Wire, Breitbart, Fox News, and so many others, reach hundreds of millions of people with opinions and beliefs long established as within the mainstream of American conservative thought. GARM and its members have no respect for the beliefs of those people. They would like them marginalized or squashed. It's time to stand up for the First Amendment in this Congress. Congress can do so in 2 ways. First, Congress must investigate the informal and perhaps formal arrangements between censorship cartels like GARM and executive branch agencies. The Daily Wire has already filed a federal lawsuit against the State Department for allegedly doing just this. Second, Congress can itself stop engaging in violation of free speech principles. 2 weeks ago, writing a dissent in Murphy versus Missouri, Justice Alito condemned what he called sophisticated and coercive government campaigns against free speech. Members of this committee have engaged in precisely such campaigns. When Congressman Schiff speaks about targeting social media companies that must be, quote, pulled and dragged into this era of corporate responsibility because they are too tolerant of misinformation, he knows what he is doing. He is participating in a sophisticated, coercive campaign against free speech. When Congresswoman Jayapal blames social media for placing America at the, quote, precipice of a democratic crisis and calls on them to target they deem hate groups, she also knows what she is doing. She is participating in a sophisticated, coercive campaign against free speech. When Congressman Hank Johnson says, quote, we need a constitutional amendment to allow the legislature to control the so-called free speech rights of corporations, he also knows what he is doing. We all know what these government actors, what some people in this room, are doing. You're using the tacit threat of government action to compel private companies to throttle viewpoints you don't particularly like. The First Amendment was not designed to enable workarounds by elected officials. It was directed at Congress, at you, and you're abdicating your fundamental duty when you exert pressure on private companies to censor speech. Some in this room have been doing just that for years. We in the non-legacy media have been feeling the effects. In the name of the Constitution and the name of democracy, this should stop.
All right, so that was pretty good. I was wavering on Ben Shapiro until I saw that, and I was like, oh, he might have something here. Then I went and watched the entire thing. It's 3 hours. 3 hours. It's ridiculous. And then we looked up GARM. It's GARM. Jesus. It says the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, GARM, exists to create a more sustainable, and responsible digital environment that protects consumers, the media industry, and society as a result. GARM is a first of its kind industry-wide but advertiser-centric community of global brands, media agencies, media owners, and platforms and industry bodies. We are using our uncommon collaboration to ensure that there are more positives from digital communications and commerce, and that we effectively reduce the availability and monetization of harmful content. But GARM believes that advertiser-funded media platforms should take the necessary steps to address the availability, acceleration, or funding of harmful content and behaviors. We are committed to, quote, take action which will better protect everyone, children in particular, online, working towards a media environment where hate speech, bullying, and disinformation is challenged, and taking steps to ensure personal data is protected and used responsibly when given. So I'm not going to read this entire thing here, but it says these are the 3 strategic areas. It says establishing shared universal safety standards for advertising and media, improving and creating common brand safety tools across the industry, driving mutual accountability and independent verification and oversight. So they went in front of the government and they argued that they are not a cartel. This was what the big issue was. Ben Shapiro was saying it was a cartel. These guys are saying they're not a cartel. And they brought with them an individual saying, hey, these guys are not a cartel, right? They don't have all the stances of a traditional cartel, which means that not a bunch of people who formally agree to not do a thing, or they're not operating too much into the marketplace, yada yada yada. So the interim staff report from the Judiciary Committee says GARM includes every major advertising agency holding company and its ranks, including the world's largest media buying agency, Group M, on its steer team. GARM's steer team, which acts as a board of directors and is also closely involved in GARM's day-to-day operations, includes 4 large corporations: Unilever, Mars, Diageo, and Procter & Gamble, that spend billions annually on advertising. GARM reports to the WFA, or the World World I think it's the World Financial something or other. I just had it on my screen. I lost it. Where is it? This is WFA, the World Federation of Advertisers. There we go. So the governing body of GARM is the World Federation of Advertisers, and it says the GARM reports to the World Federation of Advertisers Executive Committee, which must endorse GARM's work and includes representatives from AB InBev, L'Oreal, Nestle, IBM, and as many more large corporations and household name brands. GARM calls itself, quote, an industry-first effort that unites marketers, media agency, media platforms, industry associates, and advertising technology solutions providers to safeguard the potential of digital media by reducing the availability and monetization of harmful content online. This is 39 pages. I'm not going to read all of this. So ultimately, Elon Musk decided they're going to sue GARM. He said that right after Ben Shapiro made his comments. But basically, the idea is they're asking whether GARM is in violation of antitrust law. And that's what Ben Shapiro was there to say, is that they are in violation of the antitrust laws through manipulation. And it says the World Federation of Advertisers represents roughly 90% of global advertising spend, or almost $1 trillion. Now, throughout the entire 3 hour thing, I did give GARM a fair shake because I am a person that is in favor of free markets. All right. And what GARM was arguing is that they are a voluntary free market organization that only spends 1% of its entire tank of money on advertising on the news. And that might be true, but it also opens up the questions of, if GARM can manipulate the news media, what else are they manipulating? Are they manipulating Hollywood? Are they manipulating Netflix, which some people would consider Hollywood? Are they manipulating video games? Are they manipulating comic books? Are they manipulating other kinds of sites that take advertising revenue? And since GARM is global and left wing, they have an immeasurable amount of power in the marketplace of advertising. And since everybody is looking for advertising dollars, you have to adopt what they want you to adopt in order to get that money. So it's looking to me like they are a cartel and they should be broken up now, or at least not allowed to operate in the United States. Now, one of the things that they claimed is that you don't see competitors in GARM working together against other individuals or whatever. But I do believe that is absolutely what is occurring, because GARM is a part of the World Economic Forum, and I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah, there it is. I just saw it. I clicked it off. So they're an arm of the World Economic Forum. It says GARM is the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, a cross-industry initiative established by the World Federation of Advertisers to address the challenges of harmful content on digital media. Later it says, as of November 2019, GARM is a flagship project of the World Economic Forum, another one of these United Nations organizations that try to control countries from the outside in. It says GARM has partnered with the World Economic Forum to improve the safety of digital environments, addressing harmful and misleading media while protecting consumers and brands. Now, there's a lot of talk about brand protection. And this is what Ben Shapiro spent 3 hours arguing, is something like the Daily Wire brand safe, whatever that means. But the better thing about this is they admitted that they lean more towards their advertising towards women, because women make a lot of the household decision makings on spending, which explains all of the feminism, which explains all of the leftism, right? So this was definitely something that came out. And the Democrats were saying, so kind of like, it's good business. They were saying it like, oh, this is good business. It's not, a cartel that is operating to control blah, blah, blah. This is a free market organization that's operating for the sake of business, and things that are against abortion or, trans issues or whatever, it was in violation of what GARM believes, because they're all about the feminism. And that doesn't work out for me, brother. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But I want to see, there was something that really took my eye when it comes to GARM, because they said that they don't have people or organizations within GARM that are competitors. And that's really when you have a cartel, is when competitors are colluding. And there is competitors colluding in GARM. I looked at it and saw it myself with my own two eyes. And all of their programs are essentially the same left-wing stuff: sustainability this, sustainability that, net zero, carbon emissions. I'm looking at it right now. It's ridiculous. It's amazing how so many of these organizations just happen to have the same opinions on everything. I'm talking everything. Funny how that works. Absolute joke, right? Um, is this it? The working groups? Is this what I... No, that's not it. GARM's charter, frequently asked questions. Rule. Oh, here it is. Alliance members. All right. So you're not supposed to have competitors involved in these agencies, right? So they have Coca-Cola and Pepsi, Shell and BP. They have Procter and Gamble, as well as Merck, which are both big tech, big pharma. They also have Microsoft and IBM. They have both Meta and TikTok, which are competitors. They have I think American Express and MasterCard, which are competitors. Bayer, which is also a big pharma company. They got HP, which is also a tech company like Microsoft. They also have Johnson and Johnson, another big tech company. I'm sorry, big pharma company. They have Nike and Adidas. Those are competitors. I mean, they claim that they didn't have competitors within their ranks, and that's not true. They're lying. But this is the real problem here, because this is the real damage. This is what we mean by it's not about one person. If they shot Donald Trump and he died, it wouldn't mean a damn thing. GARM would still be in power. They would still be controlling and funding MSNBC, CNN, etc., because they push the message that GARM wants. This is why we keep getting bullshit movies made. Why do you think they keep making stupid movies like the new Captain America shit? Where are they getting the money from? They got to be getting the money from an organization like GARM, right? Oh, you're doing exactly what we want you to do. You're losing a ton of money, but somehow you keep getting money. Where is that money coming from? Advertising revenue. Well, who's the largest advertiser? Well, that's GARM, right? So shooting one person doesn't mean anything, really, because there's gigantic webs of these groups. I'm talking gigantic webs that operate outside of the United States. And if they're doing this damage in the US, what kind of damage are they doing in Europe, in Australia? This is the stuff y'all supposed to be paying attention to, man. Not about Donald Trump getting shot, which is important. It's important. Don't get me wrong. But The real important stuff is where the money comes from. That's really where you find out who the devils are. Who is funding these organizations, and where's the money going, and where is the money coming from? And he said, and I believe them when they say they don't spend a lot of money on the news. They spend most of their money elsewhere. And elsewhere has got to be in other forms of media, where you keep getting the same message over and over and over again. In movies that flop, in TV shows that flop, but they all feature Big Pharma, Pepsi, McDonald's, etc. And people are asleep on this. They tried to kill Trump because they don't want you talking about GARM. They don't want you talking about the United Nations and the SDGs. I don't want to go full Hotep Jesus on you and say that they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes. But that's exactly what's happening. Killing Trump is an important thing for them, but that's superficial. What they really want is global control over the United States. They want to control your government through all this crazy sustainable this and inclusive that has nothing to do with your laws in your country. It's about what they want globally, global leftism, global homo, and GARM is going to fund it. Because if you don't want to bend the knee to the government, that's fine. You'll just sell out to GARM. Because you want advertising revenue for your TV show, or you want advertising revenue for your movie, or you want advertising revenue for your boxing fight, or you want advertising revenue for your basketball game, or you want advertising revenue for your football game, or you want advertising revenue for your tennis match, or you want advertising revenue for your soccer game, or you want advertising revenue for this or that. You have to go through GARM. Why do you think all of a sudden the NFL is gay? MLB is gay. End racism in the end zone. Where do you think the money for all this stuff is coming from? Sponsorship revenue is flowing in because those guys are bought out. Crappy King Dre says my conspiracy hat says they want Trump to win, and this just won him the election. I don't know if they want. See, there has been a sharp turn on Biden recently, where you even had Democrats making fun of him. But I think part of that was just they were trying to maintain trust in the media, because the media noticed that he was on the decline, and it was so obvious you couldn't ignore it. So they figured, oh, we'll just make fun of him a little bit, just so they were unbiased. But we really, really, really want him to win. I don't think they want Trump to win. They want people. They want. But see, here's what they really wanted. Is what they told you what they wanted with Joe Biden. They want things to be quiet. They want business as usual. That's what they want. They don't want anybody coming in here talking about their immigrants that they're trying to replace the black population, or import new voters. They're trying to supplant the population. They don't want you talking about that. Trump is talking about that. They don't want that. Joe Biden is status quo. That's why they wanted him. Not because he has any great ideas, but because he was not going to get in the way of what they're doing and what they want to do. That's it. That's why I say, when I started this show, I said a vote for Joe Biden, you know what you're voting for. You're voting for the administrative state. You're voting for people to do what they were already doing. And Trump wants to blow that stuff up, or at least draw attention to it. They don't want that. They want things quiet. It's like the mob. You saw Casino, right? Nikki went out there and started putting people in the desert, getting a lot of attention. And the people and the mob bosses in Kansas City is like, can't he be more quiet about what he's doing? He's making too much noise. Maybe he should stop. Maybe you should stop talking about, not wanting to be a part of these global organizations. Maybe you should stop talking about the migrants and the immigration and why are we giving money to Ukraine and Israel, etc. Maybe you should stop talking about that. Because I guarantee you, look, Trump ain't mentioned Israel, but Trump supporters are talking about Israel because once he lit that wick on some of these people like Candace Owens, you can't stop it. Now they're like the firecrackers that says she's off in the weeds now, bro. Like that wick got lit and Candace Owens just started flying all over the place, man. But that's what happens when people start talking about things that are never supposed to be talked about before. Because Democrats want you talking about who hates you. Oh, they hate black people anyway, dog. They don't even like black people anyway, bro. That's the kind of shit. That's the kind of conversation they want you to have. So you're not talking about how they're controlling your schools, how they're controlling the media you consume, how they're controlling your music. Some people are starting to notice about the Kendrick Lamar psyop. That damn song is everywhere. That anti-Drake song, that Not Like Us. Got Kamala Harris using it. People are starting to notice. People are starting to pay attention. And that's not what they want. That was the great awakening for real, though. It was the Donald Trump awakening. Donald Trump told everybody everything you looking at is fake and gay. And everybody was like, wait a minute. What do you mean it's all fake and gay? And then you start paying attention. And then you realize, yeah, man, this shit is fake and gay. What is this? The media is lying. Like CNN just did a article saying that Trump fell down at a rally. He got shot. They say he fell down. Fiery but mostly peaceful protests. The summer of love, where buildings were on fire, calling riots protests. It's all fake and gay. And he was the one who mentioned it in 2016. And people was like, wait, you're not supposed to talk about this stuff. You're not supposed to talk about how fake and gay it is. Some people have gone so far as to say not only is it fake and gay, but it's Jewish too. But once you see stuff, you can't unsee it. And it's so crazy that even some of the leftists, like Anna Kasparian, is starting to see it. Think about how screwed up it got to be when Anna Kasparian sees it. That this whole thing is just fake and gay. That it's not real. They're saying things that are not true, and they're demanding that you lie about it. They're demanding that you lie about it, that you pretend you didn't see it, and they pretend that you're not noticing it. Like I've heard already that they want Kendrick Lamar to perform at the Democratic National Convention. They want him to perform Not Like Us. Why in the world would Kendrick Lamar perform Not Like Us at the Democratic National Convention when Joe Biden is going to be running for president? And Joe Biden is not only white, but was called a racist by Kamala Harris on the campaign trail just 4 years ago. Why would he perform in front of the Clintons, who were the ones who passed the crime bill, and Joe Biden, who passed the crime bill, by the way? Why would he do that? But they're talking about doing it, and I believe it's going to happen too. Wah, 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 wah. maybe, maybe he won't do it. Maybe he won't. But what the bag gonna look like? I can tell you this: he's dead if he does it. He's gonna be a sellout. But then again, there's a lot of rappers that have already sold out. He wouldn't be the only one. But it's a psyop. The whole thing with Drake and all this bullshit. I'm not saying that the songs aren't dope. I 100% agree that Kendrick won. 100% agree that Not Like Us is a banger. I like Euphoria better, but Not Like Us is a banger. But there's a reason it's starting to be adopted. Like there was a reason when his music was adopted during Black Lives Matter riots. And then he turned around and did Auntie Diaries. Auntie's a man now. But we shall see if he actually going to perform there. There's a reason why, like Taraji P. Henson is doing all this crap, going out talking about Project 2025. She can't tell you anything in it. Can't go. Most of these people will tell you about Project 2025. They just use boilerplate Republican stuff. They want to end abortion. They want to do black. Like, yeah, you already know that. You already know they want to end abortion. But what is this bullshit about white nationalism and Christian nationalism? What is all this crap? That stuff is not in there. You're reading that shit in there. What is all that crap anyway? I don't know what Christian nationalism is anyway. These people are not white nationalists. They're not. There is no Nazis. The only Nazis are the people are trolls online. And most of them are, again, trolls. They're probably not even real Nazis. They just say shit in order to get a reaction. It's purity testing. That's what the Groypers do. They purity test. They want to see if you're going to go hard on the JQ or not. Oh, you don't have a problem cutting off all the European countries. What about Israel? That's all they really do. And people fall for it because they're stupid. It's all a psyop. It's all fake and gay. I'm telling you. Yeah, it's all stupid, man. I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I saw that organization. I don't know if it was Patriot Front or whatever, but I saw that large menagerie of white men who were all the same size, and they were all wearing balaclavas, carrying American flags. They were supposed to be Nazis. Guarantee you half of them was feds. Because almost every major militia in the United States has been infiltrated with the feds. Antifa has probably been infiltrated with feds, which is why you can't catch none of them. That's why they keep getting away. Now, some of them are getting away because they have mommies and daddies in government in Portland or whatever, and that's how they're getting out. A lot of them are feds. There is no large body of collection of politically minded people in this country anywhere that is not infiltrated with feds. Everywhere. Antifa, all these militia groups they keep catching, clans, the terrorist cells in Dearborn that they keep finding. Fuck out of here. All of them, they're feds. It's all fake and gay. That's like the what was it, the Wolverines that's supposed to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. They found out there was a Fed in there. How there a Fed everywhere? This happened to be a Fed that suggests kidnapping Gretchen Whitmer. Hmm. Hmm. It's all weak. It's bullshit, bro. Whenever people are trying to get you to do some dumb shit, they're feds. Just like I'm pretty sure there was so many people that showed up on January 6th. They were feds. They got arrested and they got let out the back door because they did what they were supposed to do. They went in there. They made a mess. They kicked over some shit. They broke a window or two. They called it an insurrection. A bunch of people got arrested. Half of them went home to the point where they started chasing down grandmas. And none of them got arrested for revolution or insurrection or nothing. All for vandalism and breaking and entering or whatever. It's just petty shit. How did that happen? It's all entrapment, bro. It's all fake and gay. And this is why some people say, like, oh, the Trump thing is a hoax. Because how did he not get shot? He's a stationary target. It's like the guy wasn't a good shot. Probably was nervous, scared. I think Trump probably made a move he wasn't expecting and he missed his shot. It's not easy to shoot people, bro. The guy's not unless he was a Marine or something like that, it's not easy to shoot people. Not everybody can be Kyle Rittenhouse. not everybody's the American sniper, but all of it is divide and conquer garbage. Crappy King Dre is right. It's all divide and conquer shit. Keep you mad at each other while they steal from you. Outsource all your laws to the one world government. It all sounds conspiratorial. It sounds like Alex Jones shit. But then you go and look it up. Look up the United Nations. Look up the World Economic Forum. You see that they're doing it. They like doing this stuff. They think it's good. You think that there's a cabal of evil businessmen sitting in the room. No. All these people think that they're right. They will share with you their program, share with you what they're doing because they want you to say, oh my God, we're going to end hunger? We're going to end homelessness? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's awesome. That's amazing. Not knowing it's going to end your national identity as you know it. It's going to uproot everything that you've created and destroy it and just shoot holes in it. Turn over and abdicate what you believe to a foreign power. Some foreign body in like Belgium or something like that. No. Said dude plan climb the roof, missed 5 shots. I would only be suspicious if it turns out he was like a military vet or something. Then I would be surprised that he would miss 5 shots. Otherwise, he's just a poor shot. And I like I said, I'm pretty sure he ended up killing himself. He should have killed himself if he shot that many times and he missed. He missed every one. But then again, man, after like the first 2 or 3 shots, the one shot is the shock. You shocked, like, oh, what's that? Oh shit! Now you get down. You can't shoot no more at that point. Because he didn't already ducked. So now what? You stuck. Just go ahead and. So I'm pretty sure like that last bullet was probably him braining himself. So don't be scared of no Project 2025, but pay attention to what they're not talking about. And I follow some local Michigan guys who talk about politics and local politics and all this stuff. And I realized a long time ago, and it's probably going to be my next live stream. I'm going to organize my thoughts on it more. Is we lost a lot when our news became national and not local. We no longer know what's going on in our own backyard. Now we all, like, people don't even know who the senator is from their area. They don't know who their representatives are in city council, or they don't know shit about their mayors. They only know because, remember, quiet. That's what they want. They want it to be quiet. You're not supposed to know about that kind of stuff. So the local news don't even talk about it. They would rather talk about the magic racism in basketball or some shit than talk about something that's really going on in your own backyard. And it used to be different. It didn't be that way all the time. It used to be that the news was local, that you picked up a newspaper because you wanted to know what was going on the other side of town or 2 towns over. Now, all you hear about is national news garbage all the time. You hear nothing about the people that's representing you in government. All you hear about is the president and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and whatever stupid shit she's doing this week. You completely forget that you have senators and House members. Because if you're from a small town like Iowa or whatever, who the fuck cares what your senator is doing except you? But they keep talking about squad and they keep talking about systemic racism and yelling about reparations. You're going to be completely and totally distracted all the time to not knowing what's going on in your own backyard. And it did not need to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. Your media is supposed to be local. Your media is supposed to be about what's going on in your backyard. That's not how it is anymore. All right. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.